Hey guys, Aaron Cybertron Zeng here, and today I'm back with another episode of Road to Ranked, where I climb the online VGC 16 ladder and provide live commentary as I go. Today will be our final day with Wolfe Glick's team, and I'll be moving on to a brand new team in the next episode. You guys gave me some pretty cool suggestions in the last episode, and I'm actually trying to build something around Mewtwo, so stay tuned for that. Excited to see what I can come up with, and yeah, we'll be switching to something new pretty soon. So thanks for sticking with me, and once again, go follow Wolfe if you haven't already. In the last one, we had some really close games. Actually ended up being 2 losses, and I actually haven't really played any Pokemon in the last couple of days just because kind of taking a break, playing competitively just for a few weeks or so before the next set of regionals starts up in May, since I only have a couple of weeks of college freshman year left. So I really want to end as strongly as possible, so focusing a little bit more on my midterms and academics, and eventually my finals as well. And then once school ends, we'll be going back into Pokemon mode. We're going to find Giammi from Italy with a rating of 1498, so let's see what we got here. Despite the rating, definitely a very solid team of my opponent, so don't want to underestimate him. And as always, if you enjoy Road to Rank, please share support by leaving a like in the video. Would really appreciate it. So immediately, I'm really happy to see this because Dialga is really good against almost all of my opponent's team. Dialga is an excellent choice in Pokemon. Not as common as, say, Rayquaza, Kyogre, or Groudon, but Dialga is really solid, especially against the Rayquaza-Kyogre combination, which my opponent quite obviously has here. However, I do have to watch out for Super Fangs from the Crobat, potential fighting type attack from the Weavile, and of course Kyogre's Water Spout still do a tremendous amount of damage, so kind of have to be aware of all of those. The Salamence here is definitely really good, but I do have to watch out for the Ferrothorn on my opponent's end, and I definitely am going to want to bring my own Dialga. While Landers is normally an excellent lead against these kind of teams, I think it's very likely we'll see Weavile as a lead. So I think to counter that, I'm going to go with Salamence, Dialga, Kyogre, and Ferrothorn. However, I'm not going to lock in quite yet because this is one of the games where I could actually see Thundurus making a lot of sense as well to get that Thunder Wave off, and with the Focus Sash I can survive an attack, so might want to consider that. But overall, I really like these 4 in general. I think Ferrothorn deals with Crobat, Weavile, Togekiss, and Kyogre very excellently, and of course I've got my own Dialga with Flamethrower to deal with my opponent's Ferrothorn. So Ferrothorn on my opponent's side definitely going to be a big threat. Want to watch out for that. If anything, maybe want to conserve Salamence so I can at least get Hyper Voice off or Double Edge, because another way to beat Ferrothorn is just to do a lot of damage with 2 different Pokemon at once, save with both Salamence and Kyogre. But we are going to see the Weavile and the Kyogre lead from my opponent here, so a pretty strong option here. So I'm obviously going to get the Fake Out. Can Faint actually as well, which would be interesting. And another thing is whether the Kyogre here is actually Primal or not, because sometimes we see Scarf Ogre on these teams. But it looks like this one's going to be Primal Kyogre. So yeah, occasionally you'll see normal Kyogre, because paired with Rayquaza, you can get really fast Water Spouts off and still do a ton of damage. And, of course, the one thing that shuts that down kind of is Groudon, but Rayquaza can obviously just negate Groudon's ability. So, let's see. I obviously do want to switch out to Ferrothorn immediately. I think that's the play I'm going to make. I'm just going to switch out to Ferrothorn and go for the Protect here, because what that'll allow me to do is threaten the Kyogre a little bit with both my Steel-type Pokemon, who also resist Water-type attacks. Could have gone for the Trick Room here, but I don't want to take a Fake Out and a Water Spout. He could go for the Faint, which would be a pretty cool play, but I'm not expecting that. But yeah, wow, we actually do see Faint. Targeting the Salamence slot, however. Okay, so that works out nicely. So he actually goes for the Faint and the Ice Beam, the double target there, which is actually going to do more damage to Ferrothorn than Water-type attack would have done, but I don't mind that too much. So what that's going to allow me to do is go for the... Let's see. I mean, I don't want to just lose Ferrothorn here, so I kind of want to protect. I think it's highly likely we see the Kyogre switch out. I think I'm actually going to just Gyro Ball and Trick Room here. He's probably going to want to switch out one of the 2 until the Ferrothorn that I presume he has in the back. I mean, worst case here, you go for like a Water Spout and a Low Kick, and Ferrothorn takes a lot of damage, but then I get Trick Room up. But instead, he protects Kyogre, which is even better. That's like as ideal as he can get. Unless Weavile's going for a taunt here, but that's not going to be a taunt, it's going to be a knockoff into Dialga. Going to remove my Citrus Berry there. We do see that Weavile obviously doesn't have Life Orb as revealed last turn, so that's most likely going to be Focus Sash, as it is Sash here. But this is pretty perfect, as I'm now going to be able to get Trick Room up as well. So, don't know what my opponent was really trying to go for there. I don't like the Protect idea on Kyogre, but maybe he wasn't expecting the Trick Room. I also think knockoff into Ferrothorn would be better, because removing Leftovers is huge. Leftovers is one of the crux items really that Ferrothorn can have, and it's one of the reasons why it's so excellent in this format, being able to just draw out these games. So let's see, I got 4 turns of Trick Room now. I still have to be careful because if I don't get a Flamethrower off against Ferrothorn, it's kind of problematic. So the question is, do I want to go for a Flamethrower right now and predict like a switch out? I could actually go for the Power Whip onto Kyogre and the Flamethrower because, you know, if he stays in, then I just knock him out with Power Whip, unless he's really bulky, and if he switches out, then the rain won't be up anymore. So I'm actually going to make that play. And Kyogre is switching out, so unless it's Rayquaza coming in here, hopefully it's Ferrothorn. Really hoping it's Ferrothorn. That would just basically win me the game. It's actually going to be Togekiss, not what I was expecting, but my opponent goes for another Fake Out. Yeah, maybe this is one of the games where my opponent has a solid team, but I don't know, that play makes, I mean, there's no reason obviously to Fake Out unless you misclick or whatnot. But I do like the Togekiss switch in there, that ends up being quite nice. However, that does allow me to just go for the Gyro Ball into Togekiss and the Dragon Pulse. Interesting decision also on my opponent's end not to bring the Ferrothorn. Presumably Rayquaza is going to be the last one. The Togekiss switch in there actually helps out more. You know, if it was Ferrothorn, would have been knocked out there. It was basically a pretty safe play there. He's going to protect Togekiss, but Weavile not switching out, also kind of a curious decision, as I will be able to pick up a knockout, and I still have, you know, turns of Trick Room to take advantage of. So, I don't know, even if my opponent were like an incredibly skilled player, I think this matchup is ridiculously difficult, because Dialga plus Ferrothorn really just kind of beat my opponent's entire team. Not to mention I still got Kyogre and Salamence for Intimidate, so even though my opponent's made some questionable plays thus far, you know, it's been going quite well so far, I would say. So Kyogre's going to come back in, which is obviously a good Pokemon to bring back in. I mean, you probably want to follow me, Togekiss. I think I'm just going to go for the guaranteed knockout since I do have Salamence in the bag. So I'm going to Gyro Ball here, and I'm just going to Dragon Pulse. Gyro Ball might not knock out Togekiss, but that's okay. You know, once again, Salamence in the back can just threaten with Hyper Voice and Double Edge, and I've got my own Kyogre as well, but instead he actually makes the better play of withdrawing Togekiss, probably into Rayquaza, so I do like that play. However, you do reduce the damage output of your Water-type attacks if you're going for one with Kyogre, but no, my opponent actually making a safe play there, just going for the Switch Out and the Protect, so gonna get a Gyro Ball off here. Not gonna do too much against the Rayquaza, most likely. Yeah, actually more than I expected. Normally it does like under 50%, as Ferrothorn's been able to heal all the way back up with that leftover. So I haven't really taken any damage yet, and Trick Room has not ended yet as well. So looking pretty good so far. Let's see here. I mean, the safe play is to just... You could expect Kyogre to actually switch out here. So I'm actually going to Leech Seed that slot and Dragon Pulse the Rayquaza. Because if you don't switch out, then I'm just going to get Leech Seed, and, you know, that puts on pressure. I don't actually want to, you know, Gyro Ball that slot since Leech Seed is actually better, but actually my opponent ends up going for the double Protect here and does end up getting it, which works out pretty nicely here. So that's going to burn Trick Room, but it's not really going to help my opponent much unless he's got a way to deal with Dialga, since this next turn I can just protect Trick Room. Even if he knocks out Dialga, then I switch in Kyogre. Rain goes back up since you should probably Mega Evolve Rayquaza at this point. And once Rain goes back up, he can't touch my Ferrothorn with Fire-type attacks, which he might, you know, have. So here I'm just going to protect Trick Room once again. No reason really not to. And yeah, that was a good double Protect play. Maybe the best play possible. It looks like Rayquaza is still not Mega Evolving, which I think is actually the right play to go for. But I'm not going to fall into any trap here. I'm just going to make the safest play possible. I'm going to use this team matchup to my advantage and just play safely. You know, there's no reason to play aggressively. Which is something I noticed that people have commented on. Like the other day I was reading through my comments and some guy was like, oh, play more aggressively, like you always play so safe and it always like comes to bite you. And I'm like, not really. Like VGC and Pokemon in general is all about optimization and making, you know, the best plays possible. And the reason why I typically play relatively safely, especially on Battle Spawn, is because it's Battle Spawn. I mean, I'm trying to showcase me winning as much as possible and showcasing skill. And in Best of 1, the best option is to play safely. There's no reason to go for unnecessary risks, whereas in Best of 3, you have a lot more leeway, as you might have seen with my set against Wolfe or any of the live tournament sets I've played. So now I'm in a pretty fantastic position. I'm actually going to go for the Leech Seed play once again and just Dragon Pulse. And you can't really switch in here either. So he actually does make the better play here with drawing the Rayquaza, so Togekiss will be able to resist that Dragon Pulse, obviously, but I don't really mind here. Kyogre is not really doing anything against my Steel type, so kind of a long, drawn-out game here, but, I mean, of course it's not over yet. He actually reveals Thunder, which is kind of cool. So we actually know Kyogre's full moveset: Thunder, Origin Pulse, Ice Beam, and Protect. So no Water Spout there, which also hurts. I do get paralyzed here with Dialga, but that's fine. As I will get some Leech Seed recovery here, and so Kyogre is obviously kind of threatened now. And now what I can do is actually, basically I've got my opponent pinned down, I go for the Gyro Ball onto Togekiss and the Dragon Pulse onto Kyogre, because if Togekiss protects and Kyogre switches out into Rayquaza, Dragon Pulse just picks up the knockout, Togekiss follow me's, then you can actually redirect the Dragon Pulse away because of the Thunder. So that'd actually be the best play if my opponent went for the Follow Me and the Protect. Excuse me, not the Follow Me and the Protect, just the Follow Me and the switch out into Rayquaza, hoping that Gyro Ball doesn't pick up the knockout. But it looks like no Follow Me coming out. That's going to be game since Gyro Ball here, even if it doesn't pick up the knockout, Dragon Pulse would just knock out Rayquaza. So critical hit there might have actually mattered since Togekisses typically are on the bulkier spectrum and not as fast. No paralysis here on Dialga either. That's going to be Dragon Pulse. It's going to be a knockout onto Rayquaza. So yeah, I mean, pretty straightforward. I think this kind of just highlights how good Wolfie's team is against so much of the metagame, especially against Kyogre teams. And in this game, it's really just kind of decimated my opponent. He had really no answer, and him not having Ferrothorn also made this game so much easier, honestly. Though I think I already, with the lead matchup and the play I made turn 1, that put myself into a pretty good position. So just going to Power Whip Dragon Pulse, and that's going to seal up the game here. And yeah, I mean, actually, my opponent played the end game there relatively well. Like, obviously, the fake out onto Weavile after, like, Weavile had been out for 3 turns was weird, but I'm gonna guess that was a misclick or, yeah. I mean, there's no other explanation for it. There's no reason ever to go for a fake out after you've used it, unless you're trying to avoid something like Sucker Punch, which is actually a pretty cool play you can make. But yeah, not the case there since I don't have Sucker Punch on any of my Pokemon. So that win does put us back into the 1600s. Like I mentioned, I haven't played too much, or really at all, other than the episodes of Road to Rank, so maybe I'll play some before the next one to get our rating up, and then you know, for the new team. But yeah, if you have any suggestions for what you'd like to see, right now, you know, the goal is building around Mewtwo, which I think has a lot of potential, and it's actually performed decently well at some of the regionals we've seen over in Asia and Europe. Nothing too spectacular outside of some, you know, outlier performances. I think like getting second or first at some of the regionals, but certainly is an interesting Pokemon to explore. Second opponent going to be a little bit higher rated, 1758 from Japan, rocking a really cool team. I'm quite excited for this, of Kangaskhan, Jumpluff, Talonflame, Landorus T, Groudon, and Kyurem-White. So, the Kyurem here is the most interesting thing. For those that don't know, I actually played against Patrick Smith at SoCal Regional Finals, and he was running a Kyurem team with Groudon as well. But that team was a little bit different. This one obviously relies a little bit more on speed and fast speed, I should say. Kangaskhan and Landorus are both naturally relatively fast Pokemon, not exactly the fastest, but still decently fast. Jumpluff can take advantage of Groudon's Sun with its ability, and of course Talonflame able to both set up Tailwind, have Gale Wings, and you know, get those priority Brave Birds off. So definitely a really threatening team, especially because I have 3 Pokemon that are weak to Ice, so I do have to be very careful here. I think this is a really scary matchup in general, and I don't know really how to approach it, quite honestly. I think it's highly likely we'll see something like Kangaskhan come out as lead. Maybe Kangaskhan, Groudon. For that reason, I kind of want to lead with Landorus, but I don't know, this is really tricky. Landorus. No, I'm gonna go Dialga for Trick Room. Landorus, Dialga, Kyogre. Maybe, do I want Salamence? I want Thundurus for the paralysis, and I want Ferrothorn as well. I went with Salamence here, though. I'm not sure that was the best idea, because I have, like, very few switch-ins into the Ice-type attack, so this is one where I actually should have thought about Team Preview a little bit longer, since I'm not exactly content with my Pokemon choice, but we'll see how it goes. A very highly rated opponent, and a really cool team here, especially the Kyurem and the Jumpluff. Okay, so we see Kangaskhan and the Kyurem coming out against Landorus and Dialga. Yeah, this is where Ferrothorn would have been really nice, because then I could just protect Dialga, switch out into Ferrothorn turn 1. But he might have a Fire-type attack on the Kyurem as well. Let's see. A lot of Kyurems are also Choice Scarfed. I could switch out into Kyogre. That might actually be the best play. But then he just gets to switch into Groudon. But then I could switch into Landorus, I guess. So I'm going to make the safe play here. I'm just going to protect Dialga, and I'm going to switch on into Kyogre, because then the following turn basically puts on some pressure to force my opponent to switch out, and I can predict that accordingly. Okay, so let's see. If we see Kangaskhan and Kyurem here, it's highly likely, obviously, my opponent's got Groudon. The last one I would actually guess would be Talonflame, maybe Landorus, though, but if I can eliminate Groudon, Kyogre has a field day in this matchup. But I really want to scout out my opponent's movesets here as well. Let's see. If Kangaskhan goes for a power-up punch onto Landorus, that would be deadly as well. The Landorus slot, of course, so the Kyogre switching it, obviously. Maybe I could have gone for the Trick Room there, but I don't want to necessarily Trick Room. Yeah, he just goes for the Fake Out, targeting Dialga, yep. And wow, he's just going for the Blizzard! So normally you see that with Gravity, but my opponent's like, nope, I don't care about the accuracy, I'm just gonna go launch a Blizzard off. Which is certainly an interesting decision there. Okay. So, with that, I think here you definitely want to withdraw Kyurem out into Groudon. So what I actually want to do, kind of, is Dragon Pulse and switch out into Mence. The thing is, he might go for a Return or Double Edge. He could also just stay in Blizzard again, which would be pretty bad. Of course, the accuracy is shaky there. Nope, but he's going to withdraw that. Okay, so nothing on his team can take a Dragon Pulse, or at least resist it. It is actually going to be Landorus, not what I was anticipating, but I'm actually okay with this because Salamence getting an Intimidate against both Landorus and Kangaskhan is excellent. We actually do see the double switch out there. Okay, so going to be Groudon most likely. Yeah. And I was actually really close to Dragon Pulsing and Ice Beaming the Landorus slot, but ended up not going for it. However, this ends up working out fine. You know, the Weather War, you just, most importantly, don't want to lose momentum. I still don't know what item the Kyurem has. Could be Specs. I mean, Kyogre took a fair amount of damage from that Blizzard. And this Kyogre is really bulky, so I'm not sure. But regardless, I will be able to get an Intimidate off and a free Dragon Pulse off against Landorus, both which are really good. If I had Tailwind on the Salamence, I'd actually feel even better about my position since I can just Tailwind and spam Water Spout. Not the case, but still not the... Salamence coming out here is excellent, and I'm going to get a free Dragon Pulse off, which is also quite good. So there's a Dragon Pulse. That is so much damage. That's way more than I anticipated, but I'm not complaining. Okay, so we're in a really good position right now after that turn, but my opponent has a bunch of plays. I mean, you can Earthquake... No, you can't Earthquake, actually. You can U-turn. Or you can Rock Slide. The Intimidate onto his... He could go for a Fire-type attack. I do want to conserve Dialga because it's a really good answer against the Kyurem. So I think I'm actually going to withdraw into Kyogre, Mega Evolve, and just Hyper Voice. Yeah. So he's not switching out here. Maybe going for a U-turn. Even though that last turn played out excellently, it's obviously far from over. I'm just shocked at how much Dragon Pulse did since Dialga is so bulky and not that offensive. But yeah, I'm not complaining, obviously. And most Landorses in this format aren't Scarf. They're like Life Orb, Band, sometimes Assault Vest, though Assault Vest is a lot weaker than 2015 if you ask me. And yeah, he's just going to let me get this Hyper Voice off, which is also nice. And it's a knockout onto the Landorus, and Groudon takes damage. Let's see if he goes for the Precipice Blades. He does actually launch the Precipice Blades, yeah. So I thought he maybe would have gone for a Fire-type attack, wasn't sure. Unfortunately, Kyogre will take some damage from this, but you see that it's bulky enough to actually even take another one. So that's obviously pretty good. Decent chance we see Kyurem come back in here, but it's actually going to be Kangaskhan, which is even better for me. I think here you go for a Fake Out, or you could Double Edge Kyogre. And you're probably going to want to withdraw the Groudon out into Kyurem. Yeah. So, I think I'm actually going to go for the Scald and the Hyper Voice just to get as much damage off this turn. Since Groudon here, I think, definitely wants to switch out. Yep. Which is good. But, once again, I think Kyurem's Choice Scarfed. Actually, no, I said it could be Specs, so... But the item here actually is really important as well. He is going to go for the Fake Out. Let's see if he targets down the Salamence because... Nope, he actually targets down Kyogre. A good play. I like that. So I get the Hyper Voice off. Both of them taking it pretty well there. But now this turn will allow me to figure out what item. he has on the Kyurem. Because if he goes before the Kangaskhan, then that reveals that he is, of course, Scarfed. So I might just sacrifice Kyogre here. It's done its job, basically. I'm gonna go Scald into the Kangaskhan slot and Protect here. Because then it'll allow me to bring in Dialga. He is Scarfed. Okay. That is good. Also potentially bad, though. I mean, he's choosing to lock himself into Blizzard, which is, like, also, like, really? Because if he misses a Blizzard, then I just win the... Not necessarily, actually. This is still pretty scary. I hate that he's relying on Blizzard, but at the same time, it's kind of my fault for not bringing something that resists it, or losing Kyogre there. I think the call is to bring in Dialga. Yeah. I don't know if Dragon Pulse... This should knock him out. Yeah. So, what I can do here is actually just Dragon Pulse, and since I've got Groudon in the back, or Salamence in the back, I can switch out into Landorus here. Worst case, Blizzard double connects, picks up the KO, and Loki. But then I pick up the knockout, and then it's Groudon, or Salamence, against a -1 Kangaskhan, and a Groudon, which is taking some damage. And if he misses the Blizzards here, then I just win the game outright. Yep, Dialga. Or, actually, the miss onto Landorus would have been more important. But I'm okay with that. So I sacrificed the Landorus here, but that's fine. The whole idea was to conserve the Salamence in the back. He's going to go for a low kick. Hopefully, like, no crits or anything here. That might actually be... Nope. Not even, actually. So that did, what, around 124 damage? So, should be able to survive another one. Hopefully, Dragon Pulse picks up the knockout here. We'll see. I actually don't know... I mean, I don't know my Kyurem-White calcs. But okay, it does. I was like, okay, if Hyper Voice did that much, then that should. So this is good. Although, still not over. Let's see. So, I can Hyper Voice. I think I definitely Hyper Voice here. His Kangaskhan being intimidated, I think, is what really just saves me here. I'm just gonna Dragon Pulse and Hyper Voice. Yeah. I think here, if you're my opponent, you Precipice Blades Double Edge, hoping you crit. But I don't think -1 Double Edge plus -1 Sucker Punch knocks me out, and 2 Hyper Voices. Actually, it's gonna be really close. Because I don't know if Hyper Voice picks up the knockout. Maybe I should have protected Dialga there. Oh, instead he actually just goes for the Sucker Punch. Ooh, I like that, to reduce the recoil. Okay, so here's the Hyper Voice. I think I pick up the double knockout. He does have Rock Slide, though. Does that knock me out? Shouldn't. No flinch on Dialga? Okay. Wow. Wow, nice. Yeah, I like the Rock Slide play there more, I guess. But, I mean, Mega Salamence is really bulky, so we knock out the Kangaskhan there. That's why I didn't want to protect with Dialga in case he had Rock Slide. Something like that. Because if I miss out the knockout, then if you like crit Sucker Punch, maybe you could pull something off. But now I can just go for the Dragon Pulse on the Hyper Voice, and that's going to be game. Yeah, that was a great match, though. That was really fun. Really cool to see a Kyurem-White in general. Typically, I would say you either see them with Choice Scarf, if you do see them, or you see them on Gravity. So I mentioned earlier I played Patrick Smith in SoCal Regional Finals, and he had a Trick Room team with Kyurem, with Gravity. So the idea behind that is you get Gravity up, and then you bring in your Kyurem and your Groudon. You just spam Blizzard and Precipice Blades, because once Gravity is up, you actually don't have to worry about missing your Blizzards. Because obviously Blizzard isn't 100% accurate when Rain or Sun is up, and Hail being not as viable in this format, not as good. So my opponent running that Scarf variant was very scary, since I had a bunch of Pokemon weak to Ice-type attacks, like the Salamence and the Landorus, but we were able to pull through. The miss onto Dialga, ultimately I actually don't think it mattered, since what mattered was me conserving the Salamence, but that was really an exciting game, and a really cool team from my opponent, Kyurem, really shaking things up. So yeah, it's going to be it for this episode. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Huge shout out to Wolfe for allowing me to use his team. That will be the end of Wolfe's team on this channel, so stay tuned for the next team that I will be building. Like I said, probably featuring Mewtwo, so suggestions, comments, definitely let me know. Go subscribe to Wolfe if you have not already, and yeah, it's going to be it for this episode. I'll see you guys next time. Alright, peace.